The truth about fibroids: most women are using salt that contain zero iodine. And without iodine, your thyroid cannot produce hormones your body needs to regulate estrogen. But it's not just estrogen, it also helps regulate cell growth. This is how women can grow abnormally large breasts, and that's also where fibroids can begin. And most women have no idea of this connection. So, what exactly are fibroids? Before I get started, please note that fibroids have a few layers to them. This is but only one contributor, so it may not apply to all individuals. Okay? A fibroid is a benign tumor in the uterus. Benign meaning it is not cancerous, but it does not mean it is not causing real problems, such as heavy periods, pelvic pressure, back pain, frequent urination, fertility issues. These are the symptoms that most women are reporting. Fibroids are estrogen sensitive. They grow in response to estrogen, but not just any estrogen, but a certain type of estrogen, and it's not the one that your body produces. So the standard approach is to try to manage these estrogen levels through drugs, through hormonal birth control, implants, and eventually surgery. But please be aware that fibroid surgery creates scar tissue that makes it difficult for the egg to implant on the uterine lining, making future pregnancies very difficult, if not impossible. But here's what the approach skips over entirely. Where does this estrogen imbalance come from in the first place? Estrogen dominance doesn't disappear on its own. There's a chain of events that creates it, and this chain starts well before the uterus shows these signs. The thyroid gland is the body's primary regulator of hormone balance. When the thyroid is producing T3 and T4, these are thyroid hormones at the right levels, the body has the tools it needs to create estrogen and keep it in check. The other half of this equation is the introduction of synthetic estrogen and plant estrogen from foods that have them in them, and this compiles on the issue. When the thyroid function drops, estrogen regulation goes with it, and that estrogen dominant environment, fibroids will grow. Most conversations about fibroids stop at estrogen. The thyroid is part of the story that almost nobody really addresses. The thyroid cannot produce T3 or T4 without one specific raw material, and that is iodine. Iodine is not optional for thyroid function. It's a literal building block for your thyroid hormone. No iodine means no T3, no T4. Low iodine means low thyroid output. Low thyroid output means estrogen goes unregulated. Unregulated estrogen and an imbalance of foreign estrogen feeds fibroid growth. This is a clear, direct chain. It begins with iodine. Iodine deficiency is more widespread than most people realize. This isn't a condition that only affects people in developing countries. It affects women across all demographics, including women eating what they consider to be a healthy diet. And a significant part of why some things almost nobody talks about, the salt they're using. I actually have a separate video on that will also be in the description where you can learn a lot more about this. But I will brief it here. Here is what most women don't know about salt choices. Sea salt and pink salt, two of the most popular natural salts on the market, natural, right now, and they contain no iodine, or very little. Women who switch to natural salts because they believe they are making healthier choices are unknowingly cutting off one of their primary dietary iodine sources. Iodized table salt, the kind that has been available for decades, was developed specifically to address the iodine deficiency problem in general population. It contains added iodine, a form that the body can absorb very well and use. It does not carry heavy metals and toxic halogens found in unrefined salts, and the iodine provides a consistent and reliable, very affordable. Okay? The wellness industry has done a very effective job in making iodized salt seem inferior. The reality is the opposite when it comes to iodine specifically. The thyroid health, estrogen regulation, iodized salt is what should be used, and that's what you really should be reaching for when you go to the store or in your pantry. When the thyroid has adequate iodine, it can produce T3 and T4 in the amounts the body needs. With proper thyroid hormone levels, the liver has regulatory support it needs to process and to clear excess estrogen. Estrogen levels normalize. Combine this with eliminating the sources of non-human forms of estrogen, and the environment that feeds these fibroids will begin to change. This is not a replacement for comprehensive care, but for a woman with fibroids who has never looked at her iodine status or the salt choices that she makes. This is a fundamental piece that shifts the hormonal picture in a very meaningful way. So fibroids don't grow in a vacuum. They grow in a specific hormonal environment. And that iodine deficiency helps create that. When we restore thyroid raw materials that it needs, we give the body a foundation it needs to regulate estrogen on its own, as well as cell and how they grow in a functional way. The next video in this series, we're going to cover specific foods that are overwhelming the liver and keeping the estrogen environment out of place. Okay, so subscribe so you don't miss it. You can book a 15-minute free consultation through the link in the description if you want to talk through what it looks like in your situation. Also, I have the free guides that I personally made that help give you much needed insight on problems such as PCOS and much more, available also in the description and pinned in the comment section. I'm Dr. Coda, and I will see you on the next one. Peace.